Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, the follow-up to Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, but this time, believe it or not, with more sex appeal. By the time the final credits rolled, I felt a very unusual feeling that made me feel weird. I was numb. I was left with a sense of emptiness that was foreign to me. It was different from the indifference of when I finally finished a show that I don't particularly care for, but also not the same as that conflicted, heart-wrenching feeling some of the best shows and games of all time possess. Something was wrong, and today we'll go back to where it all began to figure out what the frick is going on. Looking back at Season 1, when summarizing my thoughts on the work as a whole, I'd say it was pretty good. The action was great, some of the characters instantly sold me, but there wasn't enough there for me to be chomping at the bit to go read ahead in the manga or anything like that. It was the next big shonen whose production brought together some of the best talent in the industry, and that's about it. So when I went to the movie theaters with my sister to watch Jujutsu Kaisen 0, while I was excited to see it, you probably could have convinced me to walk over to the next theater and take in Robert Pattinson's chiseled jawline in The Batman just as easily. An hour and 45 minutes later, and I realized that Jujutsu Kaisen had done something crazy. The author had written a better main character than the main character. Yuta is awesome. While Itadori isn't necessarily bad, at least up until now, there's just not anything all that interesting about him. He's Punch Man. He punches things real hard because it's the right thing to do. Within the first 25 minutes of the movie, however, Yuta literally has him beaten every facet. A significantly more interesting power, backstory, personality, you name it. He had been mentioned in the story in passing a couple of times, which made his development and place in the world all the more exciting. If nothing else, going into Season 2, I could not wait to see how he had developed in the time he's been off-screened in the main narrative, how he'd make some badass entrance that picked up right where we left off in 0. My excitement was the highest it had ever been for the series, and while the next arc didn't immediately deliver on my aforementioned hopes, it may have done me one better. Right from the get-go, I knew that, at least from a visual perspective, Season 2 was going to be a real treat. It opens with this haunted house sequence where the crew not only flaunts their chops from a character animation standpoint, but the direction had seemingly taken a step forward as well. The emphasis of space by using unorthodox camera angles made the reveal that the space they are inhabiting is the curse they had been searching for this entire time was fantastic. And again, after the beautiful visuals and action sequences of the movie, I wasn't necessarily worried about this aspect, but it was still reassuring. Now all that was missing was the inclusion of the strong character writing displayed in 0, and we were cooking. Gojo, along with Todo, of course, was one of the best characters from Season 1. He oozed confidence, was a force of nature power-wise, but we didn't really dive into him much more than that. Rewinding the clock to see how he had become the way that he was, along with fleshing out his relationship with the main antagonist up until this point, once again solved the character issue present in Season 1. Casually throwing the best villain we had seen up until this point, and this arc was just phenomenal. Only lasting 5 episodes, the amount of ground it was able to cover, fleshing out the 4 main points of interest, was masterful. The fact that, to this day, whenever the topic of Jujutsu Kaisen is brought up, it's not the insane fights that would come later on that immediately come to mind, but instead this 2-minute long montage of no dialogue whatsoever. Just this beautiful piano solo overlaying the last experiences and contemplations of Riko, ending on this shot. It's so good. The awakening of Gojo, the downfall of Geto, with the sounds of raindrops outside slowly turning into the applause that haunts him. Toji being Toji, one of the most shocking acts I can remember in recent anime. I felt like the direction, animation, music, and story were all coming together perfectly, and even on rewatches, these 5 episodes are just an absolute joy. And yet, the discourse around the show at the time of these episodes airing was something along the lines of, oh, just wait until the next arc. Honestly, I had no idea how they could one-up this, but being the happy, wholesome, handsome, strong man that I am, gave myself fully to the hype. And boy, was I not ready. So, just as a recap, there are 2 major narratives that have been given hours of build-up prior to the Shibuya arc. First, Yuta. Where has he been? How is he going to inevitably show up to save the day? And 2, Gojo and Geto, both their conflict and friendship that was left open-ended at the end of Zero, and given context in the previous arc, had to somehow drive the events of the next 18 episodes, right? It has to, right? Right? No, apparently. The 3 characters that had at least myself most excited heading into the arc had a combined chub of screen time, which, while I tried to not let it get into the way of my excitement for the rest of the events occurring, it still definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. But going back to the original purpose of this video, while disappointing, I don't think it explains the emptiness I felt at the end of its runtime. In fact, I think that's the feeling the creative minds behind the arc were trying to invoke. This isn't a one-off occurrence either, a common literary structure used by some of the most popular stories of all time, forcing the characters into their lowest points, having some tragic event completely derail the party's journey, just to later provide a glimmer of hope, which eventually turns into some sort of triumphant victory. Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, Final Fantasy Rebirth with whatever the shit was going on there. I cannot wait for the sequel, by the way. By bringing the story all the way down, it makes the rise to the top later feel all the better. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly what Jujutsu Kaisen is going for, but all I know is that Shibuya absolutely puts our characters down in the proverbial toilet. Literally nothing goes well. Everybody has a bad time except... Everybody, including the audience, has a bad time. The core roster of the show, if not depressed, is in shambles. But hey, at least it looks good. It'd be criminal to not once again mention the superb action sequences, especially in the Shibuya arc. I mean, that's damn near all that happens. A couple of words are exchanged, hands are thrown, and when they're tired, they take an orange and rehydration break and get back to it. Itadori versus Choso, Todo and Itadori versus Mahito, any scene that Sukuna touches, especially the fight against Maharaga. I mean, Jesus Christ. I had a whole tangent ready to go about the unfinished nature of these productions, but for everybody's sake, I'll hold off for now. Just, if you haven't gone back and watched the Blu-ray cuts of these fights, I implore you to do so. The dimming is removed, there's tons of touch-ups to existing scenes, and inclusions of new cuts altogether. For the Sukuna and Maharaga fight alone, roughly 80 seconds of additional animation were added, helping the cohesion and flow of the fight considerably. Why the first impression has to be such a vastly inferior product, again, is another topic for another day, but this shit is glorious and deserves the highest accolades. So, Season 2 was, as you can tell, a mixed bag for me. While the action is unbelievably entertaining at points in Shibuya, the writing never quite reached the same peaks that both Zero and Hidden Inventory were able to achieve. But I think that this has its purpose. Depending on where the author takes the story from here, I can see myself looking back fondly on Shibuya from a narrative perspective, acknowledging its importance to the events that would come after. It's truly too early to tell, and for that reason, I cannot wait for the eventual Season 3. Considering the big baddies are curses derived from negative emotion, I can't wait for the reveal of the Blue Shell Curse. He's gonna be super strong.